it's time to get some work done on the motor. I haven't worked on this for a couple of weeks because I've just been busy with other projects, and but let's go ahead and get started on this motor. First thing I want to do is remove the bolts on the transmission flywheel and the torque converter, so I can separate the two. Typically you don't have to do this if you're doing it on the car, because you can actually access everything on the front of the engine to change out any belts or to do the delete. And that's basically what I'm doing right now, is I'm taking apart the transmission so I can put it on the engine stand so I can do the balance shaft delete. But let's go ahead and get started on this. Ending up being a T55. I guess there's only 3 of these, but because they're kind of thick, I guess it would make sense that, you know, it would only need 3. But I'm gonna take a good look at the transmission again, make sure there's no other bolts that could be holding the torque converter into the flywheel. Alright, let me go ahead and show you how I got that flywheel to lock to get the bolt off. So as you can see, I put one of the transmission bolts back in, and from there I jammed a screw in there, which kind of locked it into place. But it seemed to work pretty good, so we'll call that a win. Alright, so I guess it's a learning experience. You don't actually have to take off the crank bolt in order to get the pulley off. So because I accidentally took off the crank bolt and pulled off the crank sprocket, I wanted to go ahead and make sure it's still top dead center, so I had the tools to make sure it's still aligned. So what it is there's a special tool. You put it in, and there's marks on these tools to help you see if it's still top dead center. So we'll have that sprocket mark lined up, and then if you see the orientation of this motor, this is top, and right here there's a pin that fits in here. If everything is top dead center, there's a hole right there where this pin slips in. And because of the way this is designed, if you see the way this is designed, if this is not top dead center, then this pin then this pin won't go in properly. As you can see, it's in there properly. It's going into the little hole that is designed to. So I just want to make sure everything's still top dead center, and it seems like everything is still top dead center. So keep in mind that if you're taking off the crank pulleys on the Passat motor, you actually don't have to remove the crank bolt. All you have to do is remove those 4 Allen screws that are holding the crank pulley on, and the crank pulley will slip right off. And that's actually kind of interesting, because that's a nice way to do it. Makes things a little bit easier. I guess that's something that's easy on this car, except but I guess we're gonna go ahead and continue on. My next step is I'm gonna make sure there's nothing to keep me from flipping this motor upside down, and we're gonna start removing everything on the bottom to get rid of the balance shaft. So just kind of give you a closer look as to why I have to move these around. Because if you look, it seems like this whole piece right here needs to come off, but some of the transmission actually bolts to this oil pan, so I'm not going to be able to remove this pan unless I take these off and move them down here. So I'm going to have to reposition it, this one to here, and then this one to here. So I guess we're going to have to get started on that. Alright guys, I got somewhere I gotta be, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this back up again tomorrow. And so tomorrow's goal will be to get the actual delete completed. But I guess for me it'll be a new day. For you guys, I guess it's just gonna be a few seconds. Alright, it's a new day. We're gonna go and get this oil pan off so we can take a look at this balance shaft, see about getting it removed and doing the balance shaft delete on this motor. So it seems like that this is like some kind of special tool to get off. You know, they could have just used a normal Allen head or just a normal star screw, but instead they decided to go with some special tool again. So I'm probably gonna have to run down to AutoZone, see what I can find to get these stupid screws off. Alright, so I went out and bought the special tool. It's like a same 12-point star tool but just a little bit smaller, like an 8mm. That's the smallest one they had, so if this doesn't work, then I don't know, I'll find a way to make it work. Always remember, whenever you do the balance shaft delete, to make sure everything's top dead center and to lock in the top cam before you start pulling off any of the sprockets. And you'll also have to replace this little sprocket, because as you see, the sprocket on this one's a lot bigger, so you'll need to put a smaller one on there. When you purchase the kit, it'll come with all the stuff that you need. There's a couple of places where you can put the kit together. I mean, there's a couple places where you could just buy the whole kit already together, or you can just piece it together just by the part numbers in the kit. But whichever way you do it, I mean, as long as you get everything, it doesn't matter. Possible that this is the wrong part. I mean, the kit does come with another gear. Man, that was no joke to get off. Sprocket ended up breaking, but it's right, we don't need it. So that sprocket, the concave end was facing on the inside for some reason, and the flat end was outside. So since that's how it was on there, that's how I'm gonna put this one on, since this one has a concave end and a flat end. I just use that 35mm socket to hammer it in. I'm gonna put some Loctite on here. Here's the new oil pickup. Don't forget to put the new gasket in there. So you guys see me use the impact a lot. You know, this is an adjustable. Normally when I have a 10mm, I always bring it down to the second notch, but this is my impact. You'll have to figure out what's best for your impact, but for mine, the second notch for 10mm is about 15 foot-pounds of torque. It's actually a little bit more, but it's perfectly fine. So the next thing is this right here, because just having one bolt is not going to be enough. It's just going to vibrate, break off. So there's one bolt hole right here. There's a notch right there, so we're gonna. So what I need to do is tap this hole out and put a screw in here to block off this oil path. I have a helicoil tap right here. So what I have is here is a magnet. This will kind of help grab up the excess metal to keep it from falling in the block. Couldn't get it all the way in. I don't want to break any of my tools. So, and it's already. I don't want to strip any of my tools because they're not really designed for this kind of work. But it's about 50% in, and it's nice and tight, and it'll do the job as far as blocking the oil channel. See, if you look here, this oil channel comes here, and it makes sense that you would need to block this since this is not here anymore. This used to supply oil to these channels here, for the balance shaft, and since we're getting rid of the balance shaft, there's no oil flow needs to come through here, and in order to maintain oil pressure, you'll need to tap this specific hole. This is the hole closest to the furthest from the flywheel. You see there's 4 holes here. This is the screw hole, and this is the oil hole that needs to be capped. The hope is that Loctite will keep this bolt from backing out, even though I can't tighten it too much. So here's a little closer look at how I have it set up. Remember, whenever you're making gasket maker, for the best adhesion, make sure you put it on both contact surfaces of the main block and whatever item you're putting on. Alright guys, I'm call it a day here. Call this part 1 of the Passat motor delete. Technically the delete is done because that's all you need to do for the delete. After this is just redoing the timing, putting back everything I took off to get the parts off I needed to do the delete. But you know, it's a learning experience. I made a couple of mistakes. Just to go over it again, when I first took off the crankshaft pulley, the crank pulley, you only needed to take off those Allen heads to get the actual pulley itself off. From there, you want to make sure you top dead center it. Once it's top dead centered, then that's when you're going to want to remove the crank bolt. And from there you can then remove the crank sprocket, or the timing sprocket I should say, or whatever it's called. And I think that's mainly the biggest mistake I made was, you know, I thought this was just like a Japanese car where, you know, you can pull off the sprocket's crank bolt, and then once the crank bolt is moved off, you take off the pulley. But in a German car, or in the Passat I should say, you can take off those 4 Allen heads, pull off the pulley, and then from there you can top dead center it. And once it's top dead centered, you put the lock in, and then you can use a 19mm multi-point to knock off the crank bolt. And always just remember, you have to have the tools that's specific for this. There's a special tool that you're supposed to buy that has all the timing marks on there and the little pins that insert into the cam gear to keep it from sliding or moving, and to lock it in top dead center. So you know, you want to make sure this is locked in top dead center before you start taking anything loose. But other than that, the delete itself is not that difficult. If you're mechanically inclined, the delete is fairly simple to do. It definitely helps if the engine's not in the car, because you know, you can have free access to everything that you need to remove. If it's in the car still, you know, you kind of got to maneuver around things, and it's already hard enough maneuvering around with some of the bolts that they have on here. But you know, if you have a choice, you know, I would leave the engine in there. But in this particular case, I'm pulling this motor out to put in another car, so I just yanked it all out. I think before I put the timing belt on here, I'm gonna degrease this motor because there's just grease and oil all over this motor. But aside from that, so far everything's so good. So I'm gonna go ahead and upload this video, and the next time you see me, I'll be doing a timing belt and hopefully getting this motor and transmission mounted back together. Hope watching this video makes things a little bit easier for you guys, because I had a hard time finding any really good videos on someone doing this from start to finish. There's a lot of good write-ups, but you know, one of the better write-ups, you know, you have to pay to see it. So, you know, unfortunately I wasn't willing to pay, so I kind of pieced together what to do and what not to do. Yeah, I guess that's it.